Hi guys, it's Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Today I'd like to talk to you about a semi-permanent camp. Now this is a camp that you set up someplace where you're going to do a lot of your bushcraft training, exercise, and practice in. It's not a permanent camp, we're not building a cabin, but it's something where we can go to and spend the day, spend the night, work on our crafts, and have a shelter to work out of. It's a little inclement or something like that. Now this is the one I just recently erected, and I'd like to talk about it for just a minute with you. Stay with me. Be right back.
Okay guys, here's my camp. Now, I have orientated it, boy, it's a big word from Blackie. I'm facing more west than I normally do, due to the normal weather pattern here and etc. It will give me a better advantage in the cold winds and etc. Now all that is a small sapling that I salvaged from last year's shelter to make a ridge pole. I then salvaged some ribs from the original and covered it in an old tarp that I've had knocking around for probably 15 years. It's not waterproof anymore, but it's, structurally sound. On the back side of it, I've added a couple of sheets of the black bisqueen, which are readily available and cheap in a roll. And I patted it down, rolled the bottom up against the log on the back side, and staked it down. And up here at the top, I've lashed it down with some cordage on the ends. So it's just a basic shelter. And right here in the front, I put a good sized backlog, which is actually fat lighter or fat wood, and my actual fire pit. Now, this is a woodlot near my home. It's a short little hop from me, and I own this land. But this is near a housing area, and you've got kids in the neighborhoods and everywhere else. And like many of you, I can't afford to jump in the car and drive an hour and a half to my real areas, which, my wilderness area, I guess you could call it. So this is my close area where I've got, an hour or so to spend, a couple hours here a day. I don't have to tell you about how hard it is to find time for our favorite projects, especially when the wife's got her honey-do list out. So I came up with this idea. This is my semi-permanent camp. Now I'm making improvements every time I come out. Now right now you're looking at one of them, and I'll reveal that in one moment. Stay with me.
Okay, guys. Now, in my previous camp, I had made up a bed of debris. I had two big logs through here, and I had a nice deep bed of leaves. Worked great, and I slept on it several nights. Disadvantage: so I wasn't sleeping on it every night. A lot of critters moved in too, and every time I came out to use my shelter, I had to tear out my debris, make sure I didn't have any unwelcome visitors, mice. I had a copperhead one time, and then refill it. So it really wasn't working out like I wanted. So I decided this time to not do it and just go old school and just have a basic ground shelter. Now, I wanted a tarp that I could put down at, sorry for the dog, I wanted a tarp that I could leave out here as a ground cloth. Something that nobody would really care about. Kids coming through or whatever, I didn't want them stealing my tarp or etc. So I looked around and I thought about bisqueen, I thought about several other things. Then I looked up and there it was. Dog food bags. They make pretty good little tarps. In fact, you can sew them together or you can glue them together or tape them together and make nice big tarps. I've even thought about taking some of these, running a bead of stitching through it and making the top cover. Utilize what you got. Also over here I'll build me a dry box. Something up off the ground where critters can't get into it, and I'll bring a couple of 2 liters of water out, and I'll also bring out maybe a mayonnaise jar full of rice, a cocoa, or something like that. Something that if it disappears I'm not going to be horribly upset. But this will be my base camp, and every time I come I make little modifications. I'm going to build a chair next that I'll utilize and leave out here, and a little table and some other things, and improve my camp every time I come out. Now this is where I'm going to practice my herbalism. This is where I'm going to practice my nature observations, where my plant, etc. Now at home I had started here a little small garden, and the garden had wild plants that I had found and absolutely identified, like catbrier, kudzu, wild edibles. And I made me a little wild edible garden in my backyard. Well, I'm going to be transferring that out here now and making me a small edible garden out here, so I can practice that, foraging, gathering, and help me better identify these plants and things that I'm going to be utilizing. Little improvements. Well, as you know, finding time is the hardest thing we do to get out and enjoy our favorite craft. And although I wish we all lived in pristine wilderness where we could load up and disappear into the back 40 and not be seen, it's just not practical for most of us. Certainly not for me. So this will have to do for the practice area. And then I'll take the skills I learned here, and when I go to my real wilderness area, which is 15,000 acres, 2 rivers, ridges, valleys, name it. Nobody lives there. It's truly wild. And I can really enhance my time and my experience out there by practicing my skills here close to home. Because I drop my wife off to a doctor's appointment, I've got 3 hours to kill. I come here. You know, I get off work early, I grab my bike, I ride over here, and I do a little bit of plant identification. I bring my books. It gives me an opportunity to practice in all the seasons, not just, oh, I get to go out once a week. I get an opportunity. I challenge you, find your own place. I know a lot of you are probably in major cities. Find a place. There's a little place. There's some place. You put forth the effort, you'll find it. I'm Blackie for Shaman's Forge Bushcraft. Wishing you safe journeys. Have a great day.